Oh, geez, guys. I wasn't live. I was sitting here streaming to you guys, talking and streaming, and I wasn't live yet. So I gotta get reoriented here and start all over again. Uh, um, Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. And let's see. Today's I'm a little bit confubbered now that I realized that I was streaming without it going anywhere. Um, me change this. Yeah, that's better. Um, anyway, today's show will start with the Arby's lady. The lady was found deceased in a freezer at Arby's and talk a bit about that. Then we're going to talk about Danny Masterson, who played Hyde on a popular series called um, That 70s Show. And after that, we'll talk about Taylor Shabusiness and the latest thing she said. Hey, Arctic and Martina, Merritt, Reichart, and anybody else that's in here right now. Let's see. Taylor Shabusiness, and then we're going to end up with Barry Morphew. And thank you, Crypto Zoo. Laughter is excellent medicine, and being able to laugh at yourself and your own mistakes is really a great thing. And Arctic saying hey to hubby. Hubby's in there, and my coffee is at halfway point, so I'll be like waving my cup at you or something, hubby, when it's time for more. And I see that Reichart agrees with me that Arby's is responsible for this horrible thing that happened. And I'll start playing my little background video while I tell you what happened there. Okay, whoops. Haha. Add to stream and play. Hopefully. Okay, yes. On May 11th in New Iberia, Louisiana, at an Arby's, the police received a phone call to 911 around 6:20 p.m. that there was a woman who was deceased in the walk-in freezer. And when I first saw this story, of course, my first thoughts were, did she work there? Was she somebody that was killed there? So many questions. And while it turned out not to be the nefarious, killing and stashing in a walk-in freezer that I thought the case was, it is perhaps even more tragic because this is a death that could have been prevented. This is a death that I lay firmly on the doorstep of the franchise, the parent company, etc. Because due to their indifference, this woman lost her life. Now, the woman in question is Nuyet Lee, and she was 63 years old from Houston, Texas. She is a widow. She's a mother and a grandmother, and she had been working for Arby's there in Texas, and she got transferred temporarily through corporate to come be the manager at this particular Arby's. For first, it was supposed to be for 4 weeks, and then they gave her an extension to make it be a total of 6 weeks that she was going to be working at this New Iberia, Louisiana Arby's. And one of her sons, or her son, I don't know the gender of her other children, was also going to be working at this Arby's, but not on the same shifts as she was. And anyway, the managers, she and her son, were the ones that had keys to the building. And on May 11th, Nuyet went to this Arby's at 9 a.m. to begin the setup. And sometime between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., she got locked in the freezer. And at 10 a.m., the employees arrived and they couldn't get in because she's the one with the key. And, usually she would open the door and let them in, but she didn't let them in. So they started calling her phone and they didn't get any answer. So they went home. And, then it was hours later that the district manager realized that there was no receipts coming in from this particular Arby's. So then the district manager called Nuyet's phone, didn't get an answer. And after trying a couple times and not getting any answer, they then called Nuyet's son and asked him to check up on what was going on. That's the walk-in freezer there on your screen that she was trapped inside of. This photo is from before this tragedy, because when this happened, Nuyet fought for her life. She pounded on the freezer door so much that she had blood all over her hands and the door was covered in blood. And there's been a lawsuit filed. I'll get more into that in a moment. Anyway, Nuyet's son got the call from the district manager saying that there were no receipts coming in and that they weren't able to get his mother on the phone. So he drove over to the Arby's and unlocked the door, went in. And once he got in, he ended up going over to the freezer and he found his mother's lifeless body frozen to the floor of the freezer. And he's the one that called 911 to report it. And that is just horrible. Can you imagine finding your mother in those kind of conditions? It's hideous, but it gets much worse. There have been complaints filed by employees at this Arby's since August of last year, saying that there was something wrong with that freezer door. It was broken so that there was no way to unlock it from inside unless you used like a screwdriver. And usually when they went into this freezer, they would prop the door open with a large container of oil, for the fryers. And they would have to use a screwdriver also to open the latch. And apparently Nuyet must have forgotten the box and there was no screwdriver handy for her to use to get out. So she was trapped in that freezer. The freezer's kept at -10 or colder. And, just a horrible way to go. And anyway, there have been numerous service orders or whatever you call it to get the freezer fixed. And Nuyet even filed a complaint herself in writing. And that's something else I want to get into to you guys, is to talk to you about the importance of getting things in writing. But first we'll talk more about the case before we go into just in general documenting things. Anyway, Nuyet had fallen over on her face and was in a fetal position, face down, frozen to the floor when her son found her. He called 911, and then the law enforcement arrived there and they did their investigation. And when the autopsy was done, she had died of hypothermia, having been stuck in this -10 or lower freezer with no way to get out, and of course not dressed to be in those conditions. Anyway, Nuyet's family has filed a lawsuit, but they're only asking $1 million from this huge corporation. And I think that that's not enough. I think that Nuyet was worth way more than that. I mean, she's the mother, she's the grandmother. She had so much to offer to the family, and this was entirely preventable. This is obviously the fault of the franchise and the parent company. The franchisee who owns this particular restaurant is Turbo Restaurants LLC, and the parent company of the whole deal of Arby's, etc., is Sun Holdings, and they have not made any response publicly to any of this. another thing that the lawsuit filed by the family of Noyette is that they want the freezer to be repaired and then inspected and make sure that it's safe before this, you know, and yeah, nobody saw her and asked where she was or anything. That's another thing that is showing to me that this is like total indifference on the part of the higher ups in this corporation, because it took until the evening when they realized that there was no receipts coming in for them to even check on her. The employees tried to reach her, couldn't reach her, and then I guess went home. The store never opened. Nobody reported, hey, this store isn't open, and it usually is. I mean, you would think that if there was a restaurant or a business or something that would usually open and it wasn't, you would think that maybe a well-being check or something, just to have the cops come in and inspect the place to make sure that no crimes took place there, or something. It's just really, really weird that, she got stuck in the freezer between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. And then, good morning, Celestial. And then, after being frozen in that freezer, it went from 10 a.m. when the employees couldn't get in until 6:20 when her son went in and found her in the freezer. That's horrendous. That I can't imagine. And so it's just like one big screw up after another led to this woman's death. And I think that the family should get much more than $1 million. And I think that I don't know what other kind of punishment, but this company having so little regard for the employees. And when you think about it, yeah, her car was in the parking lot, the store's not open. You would think that, I mean, imagine this is a fast food restaurant, basically. That's what Arby's is. And who usually works there? Retirees and teenagers. And being caught in the freezer is horrific. And you would think that there would be like different safety considerations, even with a functioning freezer, with the door working properly. You would think that there should be at least 2 people on duty when one goes into the freezer, just to make sure that nothing happens. I mean, because what if somebody faints or hits their head or whatever? And sorry, coughing fit. I feel like these freezers should have some kind of light on the outside that lets you know that somebody's inside the freezer. Maybe a buzzer or something for panic button or something if somehow you do get trapped in there. There's just so many questions in my mind of and Nadia says, I thought I had seen a red button next to the door. And yeah, and poor Nuit, with her being the only one at the store, no matter how much she pounded and screamed or hit a red button or anything like that, there was nobody to answer her calls for help. And there was no way she was going to get out of there. And the panic she must have gone through, it's just horrific. And I really feel that this family deserves a lot more. And I believe that this company needs to be looked into. They need to make sure that all the franchises are safe, that the employees are safe, that they have proper protocols when people are in the freezer. I don't think they should have just one person work. I mean, you know, pay another employee. Make sure that there's at least 2 on duty at all times. I mean, anyway, I'll be interested to see what all you guys think about that. And if you ever see a store or a restaurant in your area that's usually open and you see it closed, please do call in and have the place checked on to find out why, just in case something nefarious has happened. I really feel that we need to be more aware and watch out for each other. And my hubby says the other workers would prop the door with a box of oil when they would go inside the freezer, and that's very true. And it's just, this is horrific. And the next one that we're going to talk about is the Danny Masterson trial. And this is the news from when the jury came back. The jury of 7 women and 5 men reached the verdict after deliberating for 7 days, spread over 2 weeks. They could not reach a verdict on the third count that alleged that Masterson arred a longtime girlfriend. They had voted 8-4 in favor of conviction on that count. And this is the second time that he was on trial on these charges. He in his first trial, there was a mistrial, hung jury. And I believe that they hung, I don't remember the numbers, but they hung in favor of acquittal. But this time, they were able to show more evidence. And of course, he's probably going to appeal this, but Danny Masterson was taken into custody immediately after the verdict. They slapped the cuffs on him and took him away. He's going to be held without bail until he's sentenced. There isn't a sentencing date on the docket yet, but the judge told Danny and his lawyers to return to court on August 4th for a hearing. I'm not sure what that hearing is about. And one of the victims said, or survivors said, I am experiencing a complex array of emotions, relief, exhaustion, strength, sadness, knowing that my abuser, Danny Masterson, will face accountability for his criminal behavior. And let me take that down when I find it. Okay. Take that down and add this to the stream. That's Danny and his wife heading to the courthouse for this. And Danny was charged with 3 different women being arred by him, and that's Danny with the cast of That 70s Show. He was on, and there he is as Hyde on that show. He was one of my favorite characters, which just goes to show that actors, their characters are not necessarily who they are. And he was a member of the Church of Scientology, which is an organization that I could go way into that down the rabbit hole. The wife of the founder of not the founder, but the current leader, because it was founded by that guy that wrote the book Dianetics and stuff, but L. Ron Hubbard. But anyway, the Church of Scientology, Danny Masterson is high up in there with high regard. And so when these women, who were all also members of the Church of Scientology at the time that this happened, they reported it to the church, and the church sent them to be talked to, go through stuff. They blamed them and tried to encourage them not to report this to law enforcement, do this internally, and implied that it was their fault, that Danny is not at fault with this at all. And Danny's publicist and stuff even was recorded saying that on the third count that there was no way that he could have R'd her because she was his girlfriend of 5 years. And spousal R word is a real thing. Date R word is a real thing. There's if a woman has the right to say no, anybody has the right to say no, and no means no. And when somebody forces themselves, it's not okay. And it doesn't matter whether you're married or dating or whatever. And and it definitely shouldn't matter whether you're rich and the victim is not, or if you've got some other power. It just makes it worse if you're in power and they're not. Anyway, this country is still a little bit backwards on how they view the R word and what constitutes that. And I'm glad that he was convicted, even though he's likely going to appeal and all that stuff. I'm glad that he's in jail, and that this is sending a message to all powerful people that justice is coming, and don't R-word people. And it also reminds me of the religious abuse that's taking place in this case. But the Church of Scientology is by far not the only organized religion that closes the circle and protects the many times protects the abuser, and makes the victim feel lesser, feel like it's their fault, etc. And many times in domestic situations, guys or gals use religion to exert power over the other. And like in Barry Morphew's case, who we're going to get to him later on in this presentation, but Barry Morphew did the same thing to his wife, Suzanne. He used their religion against her. He would tell her, when she complained about his abuses against her, he would quote the Bible at her. And there's a Bible verse where how many times does somebody need to wrong you before you don't forgive them anymore? And it's 7 times 70 or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but anyway, Plunder did a thing on that. I'm not a Bible scholar. I don't really know the Bible that well. I have studied it. I've studied many different religions. I find religions interesting. Anyway, but people of all different faiths will use their faith. If they're an abuser, they will use their faith against their victims. And it's just another hideous thing. And Leah Remini is someone who escaped the Church of Scientology, and she speaks out against it because the church itself seems to be basically in an abusive relationship with some of the members. Shelley Musgrave, the wife of the guy that's currently in charge of the church, she has not been seen in public or by close members or Leah for like over a decade, and who knows what happened to her. And there's just so much going on in that. And let me go over Leah's tweet, share screen, Leah Remini. Here we go. The 2 guilty verdicts in the R trial of celebrity Scientologist Danny Masterson are a relief. The women who survived Danny Masterson's predation are heroes. For years, they and their families have faced vicious attacks and harassment from Scientology and Danny's well-funded legal team. Nevertheless, they soldiered on, determined to seek justice. While it is up to them to decide whether they are satisfied with this verdict, I am relieved that Danny Masterson is facing some justice after over 2 decades of brutal sexual violence and no criminal consequences. To Chrissy Bixler, whose count ended in a hung jury, and it was hung 8-4 in favor of conviction. I know Danny Ard you. I know that Scientology tried to destroy you. However, this case would not have moved forward and resulted in 2 guilty verdicts if it were not for you. I'm sorry you didn't receive a guilty verdict on your charges. You deserved one. But please never forget that justice would not have been served if it were not for you. Although Scientology and its leader, David Miscavige, or however you say his name, were not formal defendants, they played a significant role in obstructing justice in this case and other instances of sexual violence. Senior Scientology officials, civilian Scientologists, and their proxies had conspired to silence victims and intimidate witnesses for decades. This case is just the beginning of our plan to hold them accountable. I speak only for myself when I want to thank Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney Reinhold Mueller, Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney Ariel Anson, and their staff for their relentless pursuit of justice for the last 6 years. I want to thank Judge Charlene Almeida for her professionalism and for not allowing Scientology's antics to disrupt this trial. While I'm often issuing harsh statements against the LAPD, in this case, I want to thank LAPD detectives in this case. They faced relentless harassment from Scientology as well and kept moving forward. Finally, to the jury, thank you for seeing the truth. Thank you for not allowing emotions to get in the way of cold, hard facts. Thank you for showing Scientologists, former and current, that justice is not only possible, but that they should come to expect it. And thank you to all of you who have supported the women who faced hell to fight for justice. Every reply, every retweet, every like, it all mattered. And that's Leah Remini's tweet, and apparently I didn't add it to the stream. That's the tweet. I follow her on Twitter. And let's peek over at the comments. Yeah. Oh, yes. Please, Celestial's feeding 10 babies, and then I'm gonna go off to work. Celestial takes care of orphaned kittens, kittens that some of them have their moms with them too. She takes care of them and then gets them homes, and she is an angel. And anyway, what was I going to do? I'm trying to clear some room here. Okay, you guys ready for some Taylor Shabusiness? Taylor was in court a couple weeks ago for a bail hearing, and she didn't get it. And this is the antics that she gets up to sometimes. She's the one who is on trial for the murder and dismemberment and the SA of the remains of her boyfriend, Shad Therion. She's the one who had, while high on drugs, engaged in bondage and stuff with her boyfriend. She ended up strangling him to death and then doing sexual things to his corpse, and then dismembering him and putting his head and his male member in a bucket at the bottom of the stairs that his mom found the next morning. And she had, Taylor, when the cops went over and went to question her, because of course Shad's mom had known that Taylor had been over that night, and so the cops, who were familiar with Miss Shabusiness because she has a record, they encountered her covered in Shad's blood, and she was she was still high, and so she was babbling to them and told them of what all she had done to Shad, and that they were going to have fun finding all the pieces and all this. She's icky. But anyway, she was in court again, or at least her attorneys were, for this. Let me share this tab instead. And anyway, they were in court again because the defense wants them to drop the SA charges, and it appears that they're asking for the charges of SA to be dropped because they're saying, how could she SA him if his male member wasn't attached to his body anymore, or if he wasn't alive anymore. They're saying, how can you SA someone who's no longer alive? And let's see whether
to offer the most comprehensive services, neurospine physician.
That's just a that part's just going to be a commercial. Okay, so we don't need to watch the commercial. Anyway, May 31st, 2023, 6:31 a.m. Mountain time, and then updated at noon 30 Mountain in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where this took place. Taylor Shabusiness made a brief appearance in Brown County Court Wednesday morning, where a judge decided to unseal some documents in the case and keep other evidence under seal. Shabusiness is charged with the gruesome murder of Shad Therion, whose dismembered body was partially found in his mother's Green Bay home in February 2022. Yeah, partially found, because other parts were like in Taylor's minivan. Taylor pled not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, which is Wisconsin's insanity defense. The documents unsealed have to do with the defense's motion to dismiss the charge of third-degree SA and the state's response why the charge should be upheld. At issue is not only what investigators claim Shabusiness did with the body, but whether Therion was legally a person once he was dead. Firstly, the defense argues the evidence the state says shows SA of the body is inconclusive, including laboratory testing, and because of the dismemberment. Secondly, it says the prosecutor seemed to rely on statements Shabusiness made to investigators when she was under the influence of illegal drugs. Thirdly, the defense contends the cited statutes for SA don't apply because once the person is deceased, then they no longer are a person as defined under the jury instructions and the statute. The judge also unsealed the state's response, where prosecutors point out the defense doesn't challenge the first two counts despite facing many of the same issues, including the interrogation of Shabusiness while she was still under the influence. Prosecutors also argue many other actions Shabusiness confessed to at the same time were corroborated by evidence. And on the third point, the state says the full statute for SA says that it applies whether a victim is dead or alive at the time of S contact or S intercourse. While the judge unsealed details of this motion, he kept the exhibits sealed due to the disturbing nature of the photos, he said. Those are going to remain sealed. As far as the motion itself, I can't find any real reason why the motion itself can't be unsealed from the preliminary seal and accessed by the public. Frankly, in reviewing the motion, most of the information is there to support the motion was contained in the criminal complaint. And Judge Walsh set a hearing on June 13th to hear all the other motions before trial, including the motion to drop the SA charge. The defense has also asked the judge to consider prohibiting the prosecution from participating in jury selection, which both sides typically do. The judge said at an earlier hearing he's never considered a motion like that before and that it was unlikely that he'll order that. At the last motions hearing earlier this month, the judge denied a request to reduce Shabusiness's $2 million bond. The court process has been lengthy due to multiple competency hearings and mental evaluations. This past February, she lunged at her attorney in the courtroom. That attorney asked to be removed from her case. Her new lawyer asked for a venue change, saying it would be impossible for her to get a fair trial. That motion was also denied. Shabusiness's trial is scheduled to start at the end of July. The motions hearing starts at 8:30 a.m., and this report will be updated. So, So there's that. And what is this craziness? Yeah. And so, yeah, that is Taylor Shabusiness, and I'll keep you updated on her case. She is going for the insanity defense, but I'm not sure whether that'll work or not, because I know that being high doesn't count for the insanity defense in any state that has the insanity defense, because basically you got yourself into that state, whether you're on drugs or whether you're drunk. You were responsible for putting yourself into the state that you were in when you committed the crime. So that's not insanity. That's like temporary, and that's like not an excuse. And thank you about my hair. So that was the Taylor Shabusiness thing. And next, let me see, what was I doing with my stuffs here? I have to keep everything organized. So now and yeah, we were supposed to start at 9:20, but I started streaming to an empty I I hadn't pushed the stream button, and so I started off the show thinking that I was streaming to people, and I wasn't, and then I had to start over again after I actually started the stream at the correct time. So it was pretty messed up. Anyway, now we get to the Barry Morphew portion. Let me move that.
And if they would just look for Suzanne outside of where they hypothesized Barry could have possibly buried her remains, they could find her.
Where is it? Where's the bike? Please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you. I want you back so bad.
Anyway, you guys all know how I feel about Barry Morphew. And what is currently going on is that, can you guys see that? Barry is scheduled to be in court on June 26th for 2 hours, beginning at 8:30 in the morning, and it's in Fremont County, courtroom 202. And he did sound like a little old lady when he said, "Where's the bike?" And that's one of the things that is just he's asking, "Where's the bike?" Not "Where's my wife?" And whether or not they'd found her yet. And he's saying, "Where's the bike?" Well, he's looking exactly where they found the bike, and supposedly he didn't know where they found the bike. So that's it's just messed up. And let's see. And Lauren Scharf went and addressed this because we were all shocked over on Twitter and trying to figure out what was going on with that. And Lauren says the hearing is to address motions to limit public access to certain documents according to the court. The motions hadn't been discussed before the case was dismissed. And so I went and backed up my stuff to make sure that I had all my documents. And let me remove that from the screen and go to here. And I'm also going to get this link and give it to you so that you can do the same and get all your buried documents before they aren't made available to the public. Like I said, I made sure I got, I now have 2 copies of everything just to make sure that I'll have them. And anyway, they're obviously trying to not have the documents available to the public. They're wanting to hide. I think that they have a couple different reasons for wanting to hide. I know that Iris has also said something about wanting to get this wanting to get this turned into being with prejudice so that he can't be tried again. Apparently, she hasn't run that by the court at this point in time, though. The court told Lauren that this is just about these documents that are publicly accessible, and that Barry's attorneys wanted them not to be publicly accessible. I believe that part of the reason why Barry doesn't want them to be publicly accessible, or why Iris doesn't want them to be publicly accessible, is that I believe that it's been shown, and it's right there in these documents, that some of the evidence, some of the documents have been altered, and I believe they were altered by the defense team, and they don't want that evidence out there. And AK of AK Rocks is like the first person to catch that and publicize that. And, he contacted Iris showing that the documents had been altered because he thought that the prosecution had done it, but they didn't. He tries to play fair, making sure that everybody knows everything in this case. And Iris never brought it up, so it's pretty obvious that Iris is the one that altered the documents. No, Tracy, this particular court date is not for that. Iris just said that that's what she wants to do in an interview, and she said that she said that a few times, but the court is telling anyone that asks that this one is just about wanting to not have these documents publicly available anymore. And that's why I put the link in there, so that if anybody else wants to get the documents, they can as well. I've got all the documents. Other people have all the documents. Just make sure that they're in hand before they're made not available, because we're not going to allow this to go away. We're not going to allow it to be brushed under the rug. Suzanne is way too important for that. And we're all going to keep fighting for justice for Suzanne, and for Suzanne to be found. And, and if Barry doesn't want these documents out there, I think everybody should get those documents and put them out there. Let's see.
Morphew is a real piece of work. Look around me. Look at all this beauty. This is what Colorado has to offer. But instead, he came here and he killed his wife, and now he's moved away. I'm glad he's not a Coloradan. It's really crappy.
Yes, I'm glad that Barry is not a Coloradan anymore. Apparently, he's living in Indiana. I see that CryptoZoo says, I think he took Suzanne to Indiana. I also think that if Suzanne isn't here in Colorado, that he took her there, because, for one thing, mysteriously, Suzanne's phone did a check-in in Indiana at the same time that Barry was in Indiana after her disappearance. So, let's see. Yeah, we're not going away, Barry. And
Morphew sucks butt. He killed his wife. He lied on camera. He has coerced his daughters into lying and disrespecting the memory of their mother. And one of these days, he's going to pay for it. And karma's coming for you, Barry.
Yeah, karma's coming for Barry. And in the meantime, we're all going to keep the heat on not just Barry, but on the 11th Judicial, to make sure that they do their job, and, no militia or friends of Barry or whatever are going to make this go away. Suzanne is not just for the benefit of her and who she is, who apparently was a wonderful woman. I didn't know her myself, but she sounds like a wonderful woman. And she's also, to me anyway, a symbol of victims of domestic violence. And, she, to me, is the poster girl of that, because here she was being abused in many different ways, financially and emotionally, and through religion. Barry would quote the Bible at her. Barry would tell her that they can't get divorced because, marriage is forever because of the Bible, and all this stuff, telling her that she's subservient to him, that he's the king of the castle, basically, and she needs to get with the program and not doubt him. He gets to do what he wants to do, and she has to just sit at home in this castle and alone and neglected, and fighting cancer and all this. And he also was manipulating her financially and with turning the kids against her. He was just doing, it's classic textbook stuff, the abuse that Suzanne endured. And then also a classic textbook, it's people looking the other way. It's people patting him on the back and covering for him, the good old boy club, as my hubby says. Just it's a huge mess, and that's one of the things that needs to change in the US and worldwide, is that these domestic crimes need to be elevated to the point where they need to be taken seriously. I know of judges in like Pueblo County and probably many other, but where they don't even take these domestic cases seriously. They just kind of go, oh, it's a domestic thing, and pat on the wrist or whatever. And that should never be the case. And domestic situations lead to domestic murders many times. And it's just, it's not okay. We need to spread awareness. We need to help each other out. We need to provide a safe place for any friends or relatives that or people that we know who need some place to be, to get out of a bad situation. If you're in a bad situation, you need to get out. Stuff can be replaced. Your life can't. Your kids can't. Just get out with the shirt on your back and your life. And like Barry was threatening Suzanne, saying that if she left him, he would take her off the insurance so that she couldn't get her cancer treatments. If that's not abuse. Anyway, that's how I feel. Barry killed his wife, and he's trying to get away with it. And Iris is a co-conspirator, basically. She's helping him, but she's also not, because the documents that she filed kind of tell a tale on them. We'll do another live later to see that. And yeah, Priestess says, when you leave, some courts see it as desertion. And, that needs to be changed. It's our, it's no, it's beyond that. It's just horrendous that they don't take people's safety seriously enough, and they don't, I mean, like they call it desertion. You deserted them when you left, and it's like, I saved my life when I left. It needs to be revamped. It needs to be brought up to speed. The amount of power that people can exert over other people is just not a good thing at all. And so we'll keep the heat on Barry. We'll keep digging into it. We'll keep and yes, Tracy says, sorry, had to download all that real quick. Suzanne was a beautiful, kind, wonderful woman, and he destroyed her. Exactly. And just to make sure, I'm going to okay, I got lost in my tabs. And here we go. I'll put that in there again. And I love you guys. I'm here for you guys. And yeah, together we need to keep doing our part to change things. We got to bring awareness. We need to spread the awareness and petition in our areas, and just keep being voices for the voiceless, and just make sure that things change. They need to change. There are too many people losing their lives to their partners, the people who are supposed to love them and cherish them are the people who are destroying them. And Karen says, of all the unsolved cases, Suzanne's bothers me the most. BM is guilty as F. And yeah. And as Diane P says, most women who leave aren't deserting. They're running for their lives. And that is so true. And, it's just, we need to be voices of change. We need to keep the heat on, and and yeah, Iris cannot possibly believe that this POS is innocent. She knows. And I think that's why she said what she said, in that clip that I played earlier, where she says, if they would only search someplace else, they would find Suzanne. Well, something tells me she knows where that someplace else is. And Priestess says, I keep putting articles up on my Facebook and Twitter, even though there is usually a silence as a response. We have to keep it up. Yeah, we do. We need to keep it up, keep it going, keep the heat on. And yeah, unfortunately, Linda Stanley is still a DA. It's getting more public now. Kit and I are going to do a live pretty soon, because we're working on compiling all the articles about what's going on with Linda Stanley, to get that awareness out there, because I want the people of the 11th Judicial to know exactly who they have as their DA, and get her out of office, even if we have to wait all the way until election. If they can't remove her before election, at least they'll be aware and will remove her at election. because Linda Stanley is responsible for over 600 cases being dismissed since she was a DA, and not due to lack of evidence or anything, due to the fact that she screwed up. She does not run a tight ship. They make the same mistakes over and over again, and they let these predators back on the streets, murderers, SAers, child predators, all back out on the streets because Linda Stanley either can't or won't do her job. And that is just, and there are major news outlets that are covering it here in Colorado anyway, and we need to keep that up, to keep the awareness going, and find Suzanne, prosecute Barry, etc. All right, Tracy. Tracy would love to have him go through his lawsuit against LE, and she'd love to know what's in it. And yeah, we can do that too. That will definitely help spread the awareness. And as Tracy said, what the hell is Stanley there for? She doesn't do anything, and that's for sure. All she does is screw up. She dismisses cases against child predators. She leaves child predators free, even when she's got the information sitting on her desk for 2 years. And and then she ends up having the case thrown out because she didn't act on it. It's that's a mess. Anyway, that'll be it for the day. I will be working on more stuff for you guys, and definitely gonna dig into and bring to you this BS lawsuit against law enforcement, which actually is revealing more information that shows that Barry is guilty, and her term will be over January of 2025. And she can't get out of there soon enough. She needs to be out of there already. I think that Linda Stanley, if only it were possible, she should be tried as being co-defendant or conspirator or whatever with all these crimes that these people that have been walking are. Yeah, I'll be going through the lawsuit against LE as well at a later time. I'll just get back in there and dig through it and give you guys at least the high points of it. And one of the high points in it is that Iris totally contradicts herself, and it seems to imply that what happened to Suzanne was premeditated, because in the documents, Iris states that Barry rented that room in Broomfield a week in advance to when he stayed there. Okay, a week in advance. But it also says that he didn't find out until the 7th, which is 3 days before he had the room. He didn't find out until then that he was approved to do that wall job, and that she says in the documents that he was told that a certain date, which it said it was Monday, would be when the supplies got delivered, but the date that she listed was Sunday, Mother's Day, and I have the filing downloaded, so I'll go ahead and see if I can figure out how to make it available to you guys as well, because I have it downloaded. I'm not sure where it is publicly. I know that it's also going around on like Twitter and stuff. I believe the docket has it. I know AK has it. I've got it. A bunch of other people have it as well. And I'm not sure who's got the, still got the link to where they got it from saved. Because I just have the PDF files saved. But yeah, we'll get into all that. Anyway, Barry's guilty. I love you guys. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for being here. And I will end this broadcast.